Something that I thought aged well was the hard transition in night three into Anna's first scene on the moon. Like watching it sitting down with my headphones on, just full focus. I was like, oh man, like I knew what this was about, but like the way it's like layered in, like sort of over like a series of eight lines, like what exactly is happening is so fun. And I think that the moon monologues might be some of my favorite Anna monologues from the whole run.
Hmm. Yeah, I think Kalen Night 3H very well for me. I was having a great time with that. Um
uh, Something I feel like maybe didn't age well or maybe just doesn't translate to the screen is that, and we knew this at the moment as well, but night three goes on for like uh quite a while, and there were a lot of great elements there
uh-huh.
where yeah, I don't think things happened that shouldn't have happened, but I just think we should have got to stuff quicker.
Yeah, I was gonna say pacing too, and that's what I said last time. But I mean, another thing is finding the ish of it is something that I've been thinking
Hmm.
about a lot since graduating, and then also just like we talked a little bit about like character maybe didn't age super well. Uh,
Yeah. Uh, And something I forgot about, something I mean, I knew that that this was that Night Four was like a slice of life show, but I forgot how many scenes we had with all of us, or at least like three plus of us, and like a good portion of the show is just like kind of us sitting around riffing, talking as if we're just like chatting, which was very compelling to me, and yeah, kept me
uh-huh.
glued to it.
Yeah, something I'd forgotten about was like your dad with the washboard thing. Night
Forgot
three.
about that too.
Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Muprov Musings. This is episode 80. I'm one of your hosts, Hal Munger, and joining me now on the line is your octogenarian host, Julian Bernardo.
Yeah, it shouldn't be reserved to years that we can measure ourselves in numbers. I'm sure there's numbers by which we can quantify ourselves, like, I guess inch wise.
Mm-hmm.
We're all pretty up there. So thank you for giving me a big number. I like having big numbers ascribed to me.
Yeah. And we have now completed also a big number of new plays watched, which is 100%.
Yeah, there's some great ways to quantify this in numbers. We've watched 100% of them. We've watched four of them. That's less impressive. But then total minutes has to be like pretty high in the hundreds for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think each night is about 100, so probably 400 or 500.
It's a lot of minutes.
That's a lot of minutes.
As
um,
always, I just grinded them right before this. I've been sitting down at this computer for I don't know, like 3 hours or something. And and yeah, it's always so fun to jump right out of uh watching the new plays into doing the podcast about the new plays because I truly am mostly watching them as like a viewer, as like oh, like what do I like, what do I not like. Yeah, I'm
uh-huh.
happy to get into them today.
Yeah, and we are going to dive in. We're going to be talking about night 3 and night 4. Before we do that, this is the last episode before the Unscripted Shakespeare Festival. If you haven't bought your workshops yet, if you haven't got your show tickets, sign up. It's the best place to learn narrative improv in NYC next weekend, Memorial Day weekend. Don't go do it. Okay, back into the back into the podcast. Before we dive into the each part, let's give an overall view of sort of what you can kind of get, so that people can kind of choose what they watch, what they listen to of this episode. What is the vibe of night 3 and night 4?
Yeah, so night three, I think it's fair to split the new plays down the middle between like the more fantastical and more grounded ones. And night three is another fantastical one. Um, Yeah, if you listen to our last episode, it strikes a bit of a balance between having a lot of like visual texture pieces and interesting things happen. And also, I think more than night two had some actual real relationships that were supposed to be happening. So this is like fantastical things that happen in a grounded setting. It's, I mean, we'll talk about it. It's a bit long. So, gear up for that. But I think it's really fun, I think, on a first watch when you don't know what's going to happen because there are some hard left turns that we've talked about throughout this whole season, and I think this one maybe does hard left turns in
Mm-hmm.
one of the more striking ways.
And then night four, I would say, is the most enjoyable to watch of all the new plays, probably.
Yeah,
It's the one with the least like sort of moments where you're watching and being like, oh, I don't know. I feel like it's just really fun, collective energy. Everyone is involved. There's just a real sense of ensemble, and it's also just a very sweet, sort of nostalgic. Like you can really see the community seeping through between the players. So it's my favorite one to watch. If you're only going to watch one, I'd probably watch Night Four. So that's my recommendation.
yeah.
And if you want, you can watch them before you listen to this episode. But we're going to dive into some hardcore debriefing about these shows. And we're going to start with night three because we're going in order. But if you want to hear about night four, you can jump ahead.
So yeah, night three. I think night three. I guess let's go scene by scene. I think it starts in a way that colors the rest of it. It's like a little bit of a. Or not necessarily colors the rest of it, but it starts kind of like quiet and small in a way that I think it's fun. The way that it gets elevated, it's you and your older sister, played by Simran, who are at like a pond with like lily pads.
Yeah. I remember coming on and just really interacting with a lily pad. Because night three was the one that really stood out as like, whoa, there's a set when we entered. They had made they had made a pond with lily pads. There was a tree and a frog. And I remember reaching down and like, I don't know if you've ever tugged a lily pad out of the water. Have you ever done that, Julian?
Not when I did the show, but yes, I have now.
It really is hard to get it out,
Yeah,
right?
it's so hard.
So I remember reaching down and just struggling with it. And that feeling very real to me and being like, that's awesome.
I can't help but feel that it really makes sense that this show followed night two in a certain sense. Like night two, we had all of these monologues and it was achieving this atmosphere that probably we had never had in a show. And I feel like night three, one of the large like I guess problems I had with it is that a lot of the dialogue feels maybe like trying to be, I don't know, profound, or the dialogue was maybe trying a bit hard, and I don't know if that kept players from connecting on screen. Not in all pairings, but I don't know. I feel like night three was a little bit of tonally like feeling the aftershock of night two.
Yeah, I should have pulled up Patricia's email. Patricia saw it and she had some criticisms of night three that I should go maybe at the end of this. I'll get that up and see what she said about it. But I think one other thing that marked night three for me was that there were some genuine kind of conflicts between improvisers that we were navigating. So of the nights, it felt kind of like our ordeal night, where people left it really grumpy. I think I wasn't able to I think I went to the hospital maybe with Sasha right after it. Sasha was really sick during it. So it was just a weird night. And most of it was my fault, I would actually say. And we'll kind of get into it as we debrief. But this is making it sound like it's a terrible show. And I don't think that that's true. And I think a lot of people, it was their favorite show. I
think the first few scenes actually are really nice. And I we've talked about this first scene, but at least like in viewing the first like few scenes up through the like hard left turn that happens, I think I was pretty compelled because what the next scene that we see is between Simran and Jada, I believe, and
Mm-hmm.
here we're getting a little bit more information, but we also get like some good texture of like these two people are friends,
Mm-hmm.
and your older sister is like talking about you basically as part of that scene to flesh out like what the shape of that relationship is, which I
Mm-hmm.
was relatively compelled by.
Visually, it was maybe our best show. And when I was making the trailer for a new play, it was like everything was coming out of night three.
Yeah. Yeah, do how much more is there to discuss before we get to the left turn? Because I think that that sort of defines this show in a lot of ways.
Well, it wasn't an 100% left turn. So I feel like it's one thing that we do really well in night three is imagery. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually very proud of this, even though it was a total accident. So like in the very first scene, I'm taking out this lily pad from the lake and I'm talking to Simran about it. And we're gonna press it in a book to keep it. Simran wants to leave the lily pad outside, and I want to press it in the book to keep it the same forever. And the lily pad looks like the moon, and I think I even say like I want the moon or so. The moon is certainly mentioned, and so it's not 100% hard left turn, but uh, after the second scene, one of the physical improvisers comes out with a paper lantern that's kind of glowing. And then Anna comes out and does her hard left turn, cut to the moon. Uh,
Yeah, well, I mentioned in the warm up how I like how it's like layered, like what's actually happening here. I think the first thing Anna says is like, "Oh, it's so small and insignificant, like Earth or whatever. I can see it through this little hole in my lantern, that little blue
mhm.
marble." Um, so, I mean, that was something that really excited me as an improviser in that show, being backstage and getting this because I agree that there was some setup to it, but as compared to anything that came before it and probably anything that came after, it was the biggest divergence between the shared understanding of what this show was between two scenes, I guess,
Mhm.
where it was yeah a strict and strong interjection of some fantastical elements.
Yeah. Uh, and it also established this theme of wishes.
Right.
And I think someone had already wished for something in the first scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wish it would snow, or I wish I want to make the moon. Uh, but yeah, Anna was this magical moon god who could grant wishes with a fork. And that was kind of crucial to the plot. And then after that, we have our first weather transition.
Oh.
And the physical improvisers came out and they put down snow everywhere. And I remember being kind of antsy and feeling like I wanted to do a scene that I really enjoyed. I
Mm.
think I might have even taken my shoes off there. I think I did. What on rewatching the lake scene? How do you feel, Julian?
I thought, yeah, I enjoyed that scene as a constant, like in my own like self review throughout all these new plays. I just feel like I could be a little bit like less hesitant to speak. I think like
Mm-hmm.
in watching myself, I feel like there's a little bit of a rug over me that's like just thinking and processing a little too much. So I wish I was a little bit more in the scene, but at its core, yeah, I thought that this was a really fun scene.
I think that's my favorite scene that I've ever been in.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just remember feeling the ice on my feet. It was similar to the lily pad
Mhm.
of just I came out and I could see my breath, and it was just I was in a different place and we were using this ice lighting. It felt like there were stars. It felt like it was cold. Uh, every single physical motion of my body just felt so real in a way that I hadn't felt before. Um, and it was so exciting to pull. We're fishing. We're listening to the ice. We pull something out of it that's this kind of magical creature, which in its own thing like would have been delightful. But then you and I share this very intimate kiss that's totally different than any stage kiss I'd done on stage before. And it just, yeah, it suddenly, without being super obvious about it, like gave a lot of weight into a relationship, which I thought
Right.
was really important.
Yeah, I think the enthusiasm with which you came out into the scene was necessary to get me locked into what was happening in the
Mhm.
scene. It was helpful for me in that moment. I think it's also in viewing the whole show. I like this scene a lot because it gives you some like I don't know joy or enthusiasm in a way that a lot of other scenes you're kind of more brooding somewhat.
Dude, I'm brooding through all four new plays. I don't know what was up with me. Looking back, I was not doing good improv in these shows, unfortunately. Um, but I think I was just so stressed from having directed them all that, except the first one. I'm not brooding in the first one, but it's just my attitude.
In any case, that fact made this scene shine, and
Mhm.
like I just think it's necessary to be compelled by the characters that you're seeing on screen and like care about them or on stage. And it's hard to do that unless like you see them have some moments of joy and like see what they care about. And so I think that this scene did really well in showing that there's something that you care about.
Yeah. Uh, and honestly, I remember going into intermission of this night feeling like this is the strongest opening we've had to any of our shows so far. I know I was just bashing the first two scenes at the beginning, but I really don't think that that's fair. And I do think that the opening of this show was really, really strong. And it set up this like intense, magical kind of question of what is going to happen. We have this moon god who can grant wishes. We have this little rabbit thing that's descending from the moon onto Earth. Because it's the next scene after this, right, where we interact with the rabbit, and
um,
then
I
intermission, or is there one in between?
I think that we have like a Simran monologue or something in between these scenes.
And she does great in that. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah. One of my like key things is I wish that we saw more of just you two throughout the show
Uh-huh.
to motivate the what happens later on, like the emotions behind that. But yeah, I think that separately in this like pre-intermission, both of you do a good job of establishing sort of what your characters are. I think you're more flighty, more um yeah, I mean your Sermon's character is more sort of grounded in reality, but
Hmm.
also I don't know, there's like a good amount of like self-doubt or whatever in their character that uh yeah, I think by the intermission, like you say, we have a really solid set of characters to
Hmm.
to do something with.
Yeah, there's one more thing I'm realizing before her monologue, which is that we meet Kaylin the rabbit, who's stealing
Right.
Anna's cloak. That scene is so awesome. That scene is so awesome. So we have this amazing rabbit character who's stealing Anna's stuff, including her wishing fork. Uh, and then Simran's monologue transfers into a split scene of you and I like sneaking around. And then Simran does this perfect thing where she like sneaks up on us and times it exactly with the music. Uh, so that right as we're dinging this bell to bring out this summon this rabbit, like she grabs us and we both jump out of our skin like a slasher. Well done, Simran. And yeah, then the rabbit, Kaylin decides to give us this fork. Like we trade it for the bell. And it was so exciting. And I think that's when then intermission comes earlier than any other intermission. Like it was setting up to be our shortest show.
Yeah.
It was so exciting. It was like, wow, what is going to happen? They now have this magical wishing fork from the moon. They
Yeah.
met this creature like the water horse or whatever, like this, and we have these great characters. There just was so much potential.
Totally. Yeah, I think that scene is so fun. Again, the self-criticism comes out where I mean, we talk about this with Slasher, but there's this moment where Kaylin first appears on stage and I look over and then I'm like, I don't know if I'm actually seeing this. We just did a show where there's all these
Um,
like sort of beings that I'm not seeing or whatever. I'm like, I look over and then I'm like sort of drift back. And yeah, that scene was so fun. I mean, it feels like it has two parts. It has like the dynamic that's actually one of the scenes so far that has like a really fun dynamic between the characters.
mhm.
Where first Simran comes out, what are you guys doing? And it's a little bit of an older sister interrogation. I think that's like one of the more humorous scenes, I guess. We're saying nothing, 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 and then it's fun. The I don't know if you can call it the game of it or whatever, but the scene starts with us getting scared by Simran, and then all of us, you know, uh, we see Kaylin as the rabbit appear, and
Mhm.
yeah, it is like you say that this is trading this bell for the fork. It's
Mhm.
almost like intimidating how many possibilities come after this.
Yeah, and like where the show would have shown is if it had been some weird Narnia style thing where like the three or four of us went on some sort of adventure through a crazy magical moon world after that. Uh, that would have been awesome. Uh,
Yeah, this could have been like an Alice in Wonderland type beat after intermission. That was a very real
yeah, and
possibility.
this gets back into planning. I kind of wish we planned a little or a little more communication about one of the big things that I screwed up is like communication on what the fork was. Like in my
Mhm.
head, it was super clear from Anna's thing that this fork grants wishes.
Right.
Uh, and I think that just everyone was kind of on different pages about what that was. And I did a bad communication. But after intermission, they set up the bed, I think. And we had this
Mm-hmm.
awesome split screen between me and Simran talking about different things that we were wishing for. I had the fork, and we just happened to coincidentally say I wish. Simran wished to be more like I think she wished to be more like me, maybe, and I wished that every day was the same.
Right.
I was like, the second I said that, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Is this going to turn into like Groundhog's Day?
Right. That's why, yeah. I forgot that that's what your wish was when I was watching. I was like, oh. Yeah. I think that at this point though, it becomes super clear and the intermission timing is so good. Because it really sets in people's mind, oh, like you say, maybe people are on different pages, but everybody knows that this like fork is the most like important thing in the show right now.
Mhm.
And it just carries so much weight whenever it's on screen. And then in that scene that you're describing,
Mhm.
when the break happens, you hear gasps in the audience, and that's
Yeah.
such a fun moment.
And did you see backstage that the fork broke?
I I could not recall.
Because I think this is what caused all of the confusion. So the second we wish, I broke off two prongs of the fork. And in my head, we had two more wishes. You know what I mean? Like there were four
Right.
prongs to start. We just used two of our wishes. Uh, and I just thought this is such a clear visual cue that every single person in the cast is going to be on the same page. We have a fork; it grants us many wishes. And I don't think anyone could see it, but I think the audience could see it because I was right in front of them. But it was such a small fork that I think anyone who was backstage on the monitor had no idea that it broke.
Yeah.
Um, so, uh, yeah, this is where the miscommunication started. And
Yeah. I
then
mean, if we,
yeah, go.
oh, it's just, yeah, like I think it literally is like a logistical problem, this sort of thing.
Hmm.
And I, remember brushing up on this logistical problem during Slasher of like, how do you keep people from being seen on stage and still have them understand what's happening on stage? And we had that monitor, which was very nice, but it was a low quality monitor in a way that details were hard to make out. So I think like we're saying all this improv stuff, it's also just an important logistical fact that if you do something like this, like work out this issue. This came
Yeah,
up.
my one of my like sort of improv dreams, and I remember thinking about this for the new play, is to basically build the equivalent of a bullpen for baseball so that all of the actors
Mm,
are sitting underneath the audience. And there's like about a
right.
foot, the audience is like a foot elevated above the stage, even the front people. So it's a weird thing where we'd be kind of looking up at their feet, but we would have a very clear view of everything that was happening on stage, and the audience wouldn't be able to see us. And then when we wanted to enter, you just have to climb. It would make it a little hard to enter the stage. So maybe that would be unideal in its own way. Um, but to somehow have it so that one thing that we considered doing when we were designing a new play was make a bunch of like little pods out of like either strollers or umbrellas or something like that, so that the first row, each one of us would be sitting in basically like a little The Voice style egg, so that the audience would not be able to see us, but we'd be able to see the show. And eventually we decided that that was crazy and that we wanted to be able to change costumes and all this other stuff that prevented. But I don't know what the right technical way to do that is.
Yeah, I forgot about that idea, but I remember it, and that's funny. Um, yeah, I feel like it's also probably super just determined by the space that you're doing the show in. Like we
Mm-hmm.
just what we did, I think, made the most sense for the Nightery, but yeah, it's just hard issue. Pay attention to it.
Hardest to pay attention. Oh, we forgot to mention that Will, as the tree, held his arms up for
Oh,
like 2 hours,
yeah.
which is just legendary. And we didn't give that tree enough love and use in the show. But
I
just
mean, he gets the mic drop moment at the end, at least, but
yeah, yeah. But the physical improvisers were so good in the show. And I think when you look at whose favorite show, what I think Will, maybe this was his favorite if I remember correctly. Uh, just because there was just it really was achieving what we wanted the physical improvisers to be.
mhm. Yeah, they really got to shine here.
Uh,
And okay, so as we move past this scene, I think that this is the part where like everything that follows could have been tightened.
uh-huh.
Uh, and I literally just watched it, and I'm losing what happens directly after this scene. Actually,
Uh, I think that what happens is that we cut to the moon for a little bit, and then,
hmm
but I'm still in the bed, and then there's like a cool, very cool physical improviser transition where they come and basically in my dream they puppet me up and we dance around for a little bit, and then they're like to the lake, to the lake, to the lake,
oh yes, yes,
and
yes,
my
yes.
character exits. And this is where I really screw up the whole show, which is that I went backstage after exiting from there and I put on a very elaborate costume and kind of was missing a little bit of what was going on in stage, but also not really wanting to enter until there was like a strong moment where I could enter in the costume.
hmm
And my attitude was kind of uh, that other people could navigate it. But I didn't communicate that to anyone backstage. I didn't say like, here is my plan. Could you do this? I gave Julian my fork and I was like, he has my fork. He'll be able to find me. It's magic. Uh, and I told Will that I didn't want to enter. But I
Right.
didn't tell anyone else anything else. And you can just see like even the scenes kind of became about that in a meta way of like,
Yeah.
like some of the scenes were like, what is Hal's character trying to do? What is Hal like? It just wasn't good. There was just a meta improvisers of being like, what the hell do we do now? Because Hal has vanished and is refusing to enter on stage even when called.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I know these experiments shouldn't happen, but in a certain way, I was thinking the same thing of the meta versus the actual what's happening at this part of the show, and it's very interesting, at least to watch play out, because you can see people on stage like, yeah, it's rudderless, and it does create this feeling of, oh crap, my like little brother is like literally lost to Magic Land. Um, but I think as a result, that part of the show just feels kind of dark.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it comes down to like what does each person want to be doing, and how do you support each person, rather than how do you support just a pure narrative or like any other thing. And from an improv perspective, it's kind of interesting to watch the show and see that improv story play out and see each person's journey. Like I think Simran's going through a very similar journey to her character of like what because suddenly she's wished to be my her brother, and suddenly she just is in this role. And Will is like, something's coming, someone's about to enter, someone's about to enter, and I'm like, fuck you, Will. I'm not coming. I just told you I didn't want to come on. Why are you forcing me to enter right now? Um, and I'm doing the usual Hal thing where I'm stubbornly like, I am giving you an offer by not being here. Just notice that and accept that offer. And I think that everyone comes to the right thing. Like Jada eventually is like, what if they're in the lake, and like all this stuff. But it just takes too long to figure it out. And there are sort of three kind of long scenes of them sort of figuring out to go look for me.
Yeah, I think that's probably the key of what could have been tightened here is just getting to looking for you quicker. I think that what keeps those scenes, or at least the first maybe of those three scenes, fun is Kaylin is now interacting with Sibert and Jada's characters, and anytime that Kaylin's rabbit was on stage, it was just delightful because. Yeah, the whole audience is really into the moon stuff and the magic, and also, like I said, the because of the improviser conflict, it like feels a little bit dark, a little bit tense on stage. But the goofy little rabbit is obviously going to like temper that down somewhat.
It's so funny. I agree. And
then we have the
I know I
best.
messed it up. I know I messed it up.
Oh, no, yeah.
Wait, then we have the best what?
The best character entrance of all time of me as the father, I guess. I really, that was true. That was my way of like, I don't know what's happening here to come on as a little side character to fill things out.
Yeah. My take after seeing more new plays is that there really shouldn't be side characters played by character improvisers.
Yeah.
Like they should just be played by physical improvisers. And night 4, like it's just like, what is going on? But yeah, I thought that worked well enough. But it did add more random sort of hours onto the show. And then I think I handed you the fork and was like, go out as the boyfriend. And you came to her like, I wish I knew what the hell is going on with my boyfriend. And it's just a mess. But you get through the lake, it all happens. Get to the moon, and I get to do my entrance. It just wasn't worth the derailment that it caused. Emotionally.
It's a very striking entrance, watching it. I mean, it was playing up to it, so I don't think it hit super hard when watching, just because I knew what was going to happen. But yeah, it's like, I think for the audience, it must be like, whoa, okay, like, yeah, I guess this is what's been happening, and it's a very visually interesting moment.
Yeah, I really wanted to enter Frozen, because we had all this talk of snow and ice and of every day being the same and all this other stuff. And I wasn't sure how to do that. And then I remember suddenly seeing, I had hung the curtains, so I knew that they could move. And I suddenly was like, whoa, if I move the curtain with myself behind it and then stand still, one of the physical improvisers can pull away the curtain. I didn't tell anyone to do that, but I think people just picked up on what was going on. And so they can pull the curtain away from me. And I was wearing the wedding dress with this big polar bear pelt thing wrapped around me, and this book that was originally the book that I'd been pressing the lily pads in. I was holding that to myself and was frozen like a statue. And right as the curtain pulls behind, Sasha raises up this ball that looks like the moon from behind my head. It's just the coolest visual thing ever. And it totally was not worth derailing the entire show for it. I could have done it 5 scenes earlier. And it was also super unhelpful to have me be frozen and unable to talk for the duration of the next scene. It was just like another one of like, Hal has an idea, doesn't communicate it, and then everyone else in the scene has to be like, how do we figure out how to navigate this when Hal has no way of communicating what they're doing to us? But
yeah, I mean, I think that scene is still very striking because we get the big, like, oh, like, okay, they're on the moon, and now like Anna's character is playing a more forward role. I think, yeah, people just loved the moon people, and getting to the moon just made it interesting, even if it was still hard for the
Hmm.
onstage improvisers to cobble something together.
Yeah, because the other thing that happens is right here, we basically started to do an ordeal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was a particularly gnarly ordeal because I was frozen, so I wasn't going to say anything. Anna was cueing the ordeal and really wanted Simran to have to like find some sort of answer. And I think Simran just had no interest in doing an ordeal in any of the shows. And we had kind of said that we weren't going to do an ordeal after
Mm-hmm.
it had gone wrong in practice. For context, if you haven't listened to the ordeal episode from Hero's Journey, the idea is to try to take a Hero's Journey style character ordeal at the same time as an improviser ordeal. Um, so the improviser reaches their genuine low point where they have no idea how they're going to get out of the situation. And then they have some stroke of brilliance. And it went really wrong in several of the practices and made it just felt really bad as an like I think there is a safe way to do it, but we were like, we're not going to work on this. Um, so, but you could see the way that Anna was genuinely pressing on Simran to try to uh, elicit something from her, some big change and realization. And then I was also pressing on Simran by just not saying anything. And Simran was just like, this is a lot of pressure and this is uncomfortable. And I've already said what I want. Can we get this to happen? And you could just see that all play out on stage. It was tense.
Yeah. Yeah, it is intense to watch. Yeah, I think I do like how this show wraps, though. I think I feel good about the rest of the scenes here on out.
Yeah. There's only one more scene here on out.
Or right, because we do get a scene with you and Simran, and then we do get one with Kaylin, right?
Yeah, yeah, two more scenes. Yeah, I was really mad at myself for this after the show. I was more mad at myself for the horrible communication, putting people in stressful situations, and derailing the show. But on a just pure improviser moment, there's this moment where I came out with the book to press it, and like Simran had been writing a book the whole time, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like there was this missed opportunity to have the story we had just seen like be Simran's book, if that made sense.
Right.
Or something like that, where it was like, hey, I read your draft, like, is this what you think, just something like that. But I was just so jarred by what had just happened. I just could barely say anything in that scene, and then Simran was just sort of carrying me in at the end, and then Kaylin comes in and saves the day or whatever.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, it was given the moon people in the show. I thought that the bookend should, yeah, be from them at least. And Kaylin, I guess what Kaylin is like nominally like, I don't know, is your interpretation of it that Kaylin is the new like Lord of the Moon, or that like,
yeah, because we'd had this
yeah,
whole thing where it seemed like Anna was being led off to her death. Like
right.
we first we have the forks throughout the wishing, and then those spoons start appearing, and they're not helpful. And then finally, there a knife comes out, uh, and it seemed like Anna's time on the moon was over, and that she was being, going to be either killed or kill herself, or I wasn't really clear.
And Kaylin's wearing the cloak, and we do get Will's like mic drop moment finally from the tree of birthing a new fork, which is
Out
very
of its
nice.
branch. Oh, it's so
Yeah.
sweet. Yeah.
So yeah,
Um,
in reviewing it and talking to you now, it seems clear to me that this really might have been the visual showcase show. We had and as a character improviser, I think my experience with it is so colored by what it was like to be a character improviser in that show. But watching it and talking about it now, I think that a lot of the big things to get out of this were it is so great to look at various points.
Yeah, and I would just say imagery in general. Like I think that the metaphorical imagery was also really strong. I love this pressing and freezing and wishing, and I think it's so cool that the first scene echoed the like. There is this through line to it, which is awesome. But I agree with you. Like there were some monologues that like I felt like or not monologue, but like there were just some things where I felt like we were just finding our way for so much of the show.
Right.
Uh, and though I felt really present with what the physical reality of it, I felt really disconnected from the other players. And yeah, it was my fault.
Yeah, but it was still a very fun show. And I think that the lesson to take from it is that, yeah, just having, and a lesson that really gets pounded in the next show is that the key to being on the same page as improvisers is often to be on the same page as characters. You don't necessarily have to be allies or something, but sitting with your like partner and organically forming like a relationship and a vibe together rather than sort of, I don't know. I think all of us throughout many of these shows had ideas that we wanted to, that struck us in the moment still, and we wanted to follow them. But that like organic sitting down and creating the relationship on stage,
Uh-huh.
I think is what gets wavelengths vibrating on the same frequency.
Uh, and also, part of the wavelength of improv, I felt like night three kind of felt like an ordeal, like
Mm-hmm.
a mini, like just an interpersonal ordeal of like
Right.
everyone was stressed, wasn't clear what was going to happen. We had this kind of dark energy of night two going into it. Then we had this sort of
Yeah.
interpersonal conflict. Will was furious at me afterwards, and it just felt very tense. And going
Mm-hmm.
into the warm up of night four, do you remember what happened in the warm up of night four?
No.
Um, I think night three also had something weird in the warm up, and that was part of why we're. But the warm up for night four, we ended up getting into like a ridiculous argument about what warm up we were gonna do, and everyone needed different warm ups. And what eventually happened was we split into two groups.
Oh.
Um, where we were like, some of us are going to go warm up like with Electric Company or something like that, and some of us are going to go
That's
warm
what
up
I remember.
with a different one. And it was this weird thing where it was like, it felt like there was this kind of friendship fracture. Like I don't know, there was this meta level of like, we are so disconnected right now that we can't even warm up together. Um, and that energy just spoiler for night four, the I guess it really is the third scene where this comes up, but the central crux of it is that you have this friend group, and some of them want to keep on doing Halloween the way they've always done it, and some of them want to do something different, and they decide to spend their Halloween separately.
Yeah.
And they're like, what if we just do two different things? And it was really funny that that happened in the show because we had just come to the same solution as a pod. And then we
Right.
somehow throughout the show, we were able to sort of heal and unite and end up just so warm and collected and like connected, which is why Night Four is so awesome. And
Yeah. Well,
you go.
I think that the this end, the resolution, the coming together is signaled from the very first moment of
Mhm.
I credit so much of this to the physical improvisers making the set or whatever you want to call that
Uh-huh.
of importantly in my opinion bringing all of us, all the character improvisers on stage and sitting down together. That was something that we hadn't had in any of the shows.
Mhm.
And yeah, we were all sitting down together to start the show.
And they were dancing. When they set up the set, they
Yeah.
were just really dancing. The music was great. Night three and four, the real story of night three and four is just the music was fantastic. A big part of it is Steven arrived on the drums, but really, really good music in night three and four. Night three, you have Thomas doing all the mandolin stuff. And yeah, night four, you have See Me Now. It's just good music.
Yeah, the first scene had me laughing out loud because like literally we're just riffing as like a friend group basically, which is
Mhm.
nice. And it's, I don't know, the meta story is very fun to just like, oh, like we needed to like go on stage and like be doing a play to just like riff and chill as a friend group for a moment. But um yeah, someone I laugh out loud when I have the first line like heads or tails or something, and we all go around saying heads or tails, and then Simran's character says on the side.
On
We
the
have a little bit
middle.
of a, yeah, down in the
Yeah.
middle. We riff about that, and then I flip the coin, and then I catch it, and I do it like this, just because that's how I always
Oh,
literally
yeah,
flip
on his
coins.
wrist. Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody like, no, you're not supposed to do that. It was, yeah, it was, we were all on the same wavelength for once. And it was a very like jovial, lighthearted wavelength.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because how is the coin supposed to land on its side if you catch it like that? Yeah. And I tried to get off the wavelength. I picked up the weird jukebox thing and started playing it like an instrument.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking. Somehow I thought that we were all just going to become a band or something, and that it was going to be a band show. Uh, but then I put it back and it was just a jukebox again, and it showed just didn't need that. Um,
Yeah.
it was
I
sweet.
was just I was just so again permanently I'm always like I'm just hedging too much, and it's funny because Anna calls me out for that in character. There's this thing of like she knows what song I want to like, we both win the bet, and so we get to pick the song, and I'm supposed to know what song her character wants, and I'm hedging a little bit, and she says to me, "You're hedging, stop." On stage. Like, oh yeah, that was just so funny to me. I say
Uh,
"See Me Now," and then we start listening to "See Me Now,"
which
which is the title of the show and the theme to this podcast.
Yeah, if you at the end of every episode, oh, you're gonna at the end of us talking about night four, it's gonna play See Me Now. Okay, that's awesome in its own way. Um,
And just for the content, or the like, we're just uh four friends in a or five friends in like a small or just a town, and we're just riffing about town stuff. Someone opened a new shop. We're talking Halloween is the
mhm.
upcoming event. But yeah, it's just mostly clear that we're a friend group who's riffing.
Yeah, and it it doesn't really have a plot. Like there's a loose like there's a thing of tension that happens, but in general, uh, it's just a texturally awesome show. You just really enjoy it the whole time. The people are connected. It's really funny in a lot of places. Um,
The next scene is really funny.
and it
The
was a
next
new
scene,
structure. It was the split screen. We hadn't practiced that at
yeah,
all.
yeah, not at all. But you start the next scene in the bath and then like taking a shower, and it just becomes clear that we're roommates. I'm kind of barging in, I need to use the bathroom, and uh, I really like we just spend the scene in my head mostly establishing what our relationship is like. It's a little bit, and it feels like a very real relationship of
Mhm.
it's two people who like each other and care about each other, but are mostly ribbing on each other.
And the shower is so good. The physical improvisers make that. I've already talked about it 3 times on the podcast, so I don't need to. But oh my god, the that's my favorite part of the whole show is the physical improvisers doing the shower. Um, and then it split screens over the other half of the stage, and the girls are getting ready. And
Yeah.
their scene is also really like connected and funny, and we learn like I think Simran's character might be my favorite of the 5 characters in the show. It's just so particular and defined, and it's different from who Simran is in real life. And there's just something so strange about like that character. I get she. I don't know what you would use to describe someone who's like that in real life, but it's almost like she's missing like a social cue or something like that, or
Yeah.
like she's somehow like 10 years younger than the rest of us, and no one knows. I don't know what's going on with it, but it's really funny. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the characters are good here because they are pretty, at least within each of the groups, we've got pretty big dynamics going on. I think you're right to flag like Simran is kind of the different character in that group, although they all, are
Hmm.
have their own thing and they're riffing. And then in our group, like you're clearly like mm, you're like kind of esoteric, or like you're a little bit like in your own world, and I think I'm a little bit more of like a
Hmm.
duty kind of guy. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it just sets up like these nice like nested shapes where we have the shape of the
Hmm.
whole friend group that comes out whenever everybody's on stage, and then we have these little substructures of what the relationship is and where everybody falls when you're in a smaller group.
Hmm. And you also like each of us has a different kind of role in the show as well. Like Jada is the monologist. Like the show is from
Right.
Jada's perspective. She's doing these beautiful and like every time we were get part of why the show I think feels more on the rails than the other shows is like every time we were getting off course, Jada came out and just like redirected us back into like remember what the show is about. It's about
Yeah.
uh and she's the one who sort of is more generally aware and reflective. And then Anna is this very internal person who has her own sort of monologues that are just about her internal thoughts. And
Hmm.
then Simran is this kind of oblivious, like cheerful person who wants everything to stay the same. And I couldn't remember whether Simran, it doesn't quite line up with the coin flips. Yeah, no, because Simran's the sideways. She's not the one who stays the same. But yeah, and I think you're kind of just the rock, the base of like just keeping everything on its rails, but also we'll get into later. You're kind of goofy and start some chaos in its own way.
I think it's fun. I think literally just a fun thing that I remember from being in this show, like as we go into this next scene. So we're all getting ready for Halloween, and we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
meet up all together at the diner that we started at. It seems to be our go-to diner at this point, in our Halloween costumes. And I think it was just very literally fun as improvisers to play with the costumes backstage. And we had this big rack backstage of white
Uh-huh.
clothing pieces, and yeah, it was our like stuff to pull from during all the rest of the shows. But this was fun because we were going to dress up for Halloween. So it was a very like direct and obvious task. There wasn't something of like, would my character wear this thing? It was like, oh, I see what a costume could be. I'm going to put this together.
Uh-huh.
And we all come out with costumes.
Yeah, and the whole Halloween thing was also started just because someone put that pumpkin on stage again. And so yeah, it was funny to see, and Anna's grabbing her ruff for like the third time. Every new play features Hal as a weird brother and Anna wearing a clown ruff. Uh, yeah, it was just fun, and the cuts back and forth. It was kind of punchy. The dialogue was funny. I loved. You were hedging again on the TV show, but
Oh yeah.
I remember in that scene, I just walked off suddenly, and then I walked right back on and said one more. And there just felt very new play. Like in a non-new play show, I would not have just completely left that scene.
Hmm.
That's just a more aggressive thing I would do in a normal show, and I also wouldn't have walked right back onto it.
Yeah, which is I think a good flag of how us doing this made us really good at what could be a pretty normal show. Like this genre wise was not like anything too crazy like Nights two
Mhm.
or three. This was like a slice of life, like friend dramedy comedy kind of
Uh-huh.
thing. Uh, so yeah, but it's like you say, like having all of these muscles that we can flex allowed us to flex the muscles we usually wouldn't in that situation.
Hmm. And this is like a meta Hal thing, but I think it's fun to see how improv relates to other improv. And part of what was so resonant about the whole new play experience for me is that the first night of new play felt exactly like what I'd been, or the first time I artistic directed, the second time I artistic directed improvised time travel, like that
Mm-hmm.
dream. And then the first time I artistic directed was like Trey wanted help with Singles Awareness Day, which was his version of a Valentine's Day show where we were following a bunch of single people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the first, we eventually did it on Valentine's Day for the real show. It was like, oh, it's single people on Valentine's Day, and the show isn't really about Valentine's Day. But originally, we got a suggestion for a holiday. So the first run that we ever did of the show was a Halloween run. So my first like run of a narrative improv show that I did with the Stanford Improvisers was a show that took place over the course of Halloween, and just seeing like it was just the same thing happened to me in high school where my first sculpture was my right hand, and I just basically traced it except in sculpture, and then my left hand, and then the last sculpture I made was my right hand, which obviously you can't you can't really trace because I'm right hand, and it was just, you can put the two next to each other and just one is so much better than the other. It feels good to come back to the same subject matter and just be able to do way better with it.
Yeah, yeah, way more comfort. Um, I think the next scene the Jada monologue that you interrupt, I believe, or just yeah, then you
Well,
enter that scene,
no, first we have this thing of figuring of deciding to split and spend the night different, and we also have this weird little interlude where the physical improvisers enter as like velociraptors.
Oh yeah,
I don't think that one aged super well. But it kind of did. It was delightful too.
yeah.
We could have yes-anded it, and there could have been monsters in this world. But what I liked about this show is that there was this magical stuff that happened, like me picking up the jukebox and playing it like a guitar. But we
Hmm.
just basically ignored it.
Right,
Like there
yeah,
were these velociraptors running around, but it didn't change the fact that it was in the real world. It just added color and this kind of fun dimension of like, oh, there are some weird things that happen in this world where things appear and disappear, and but it was all real. Kind of like in Lumiere when we decided objects be what they are. Um, but yeah, then Jada comes out with a monologue, and she already talked about it in her episode, but it's brilliant.
yeah, yeah. And then I forgot that we did get a decent amount of like different pairings because you enter that scene after the monologue.
Mm-hmm.
You're knocking, and yeah, I think that that was the right show for us to really try to hit a lot of the combos. Like we mentioned in night two, we didn't hit so many combos. But I think we did it better in this one of hitting different pairs of characters because before we hit all the pairs of characters, like as a group and then in our little subgroups, we did a pretty good job, I think, of defining everybody.
Yeah, and I think we're skipping over the Jada's time jump as well. Like it
Oh,
was
right.
super bold. We've got the show about Halloween, and Jada decided to cut to like what felt like maybe 1 a.m. or something. Like
Yeah, right.
Halloween was over. She told us what had happened. So instead of wasting the whole show, just sort of like slowly moving through Halloween, there was suddenly
Uh-huh.
were these stakes again of like I entered and Julian and Simran weren't home. And suddenly it was like, where are they? They're missing.
Yeah.
And we got to go out and look for them. And that was a good cliffhanger to go into intermission. But it was also like, uh, yeah, it was something that we'd never done. It took the show. It was basically a hard left turn of just trusting that making that time jump was going to work.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That yeah, it was because so much of this show feels very natural and normal, but that is probably the like most interesting feature of it from like a narrative structure point. And it's so good to get us out of like uh I think especially coming off of night three, us knowing what was going to happen, us knowing, oh, we're going to go do Halloween, the show.
Mhm.
Uh, Made us a little bit too comfortable as improvisers. And yeah, I think it was very helpful to get us on our toes.
And then there's another time jump, this time by me, but physical improvisers entered dancing, and it was clear we were going back to the party. I just came forward and said like a couple hours earlier. But that put us at the party. There's a tiny miscommunication here that was caused by me not differentiating characters well enough. Um,
Yeah, right. Yeah, and also, yeah, I don't know. In general, I think I also in these shows was not not paying a lot of attention to subtle details. I often didn't know like wasn't flagging if there's like a season change or anything like that. It was
mhm.
just a high cognitive load, hard show for me. So I didn't realize you were because there was nominally this like TJ character um who we were supposed to meet up with at the party and you were playing TJ and then so it's largely me and Simran at the party. Simran goes and talks to a character that Jada is playing uh, and I go and talk to your character, but I just still think it's you, and I'm confused.
Yeah. Well, oh, you still think it's me? That's funny. Okay, because I was in my head. I put on a dress and I was like, I'm gonna enter as Jolene, and everyone's gonna be
Right.
this is gonna be so obvious that Hal is Jolene. and then I come out and do like literally the exact same mannerisms and voice and posture as the other character that I've been playing. And it's Halloween, so like we could just be switching costumes.
Right. And I did switch costumes in
And
between these
and
scenes.
then also like there's this weird moment where like Julian's like, I wonder what TJ's doing or something like that to me, and I'm like, okay, so he knows it. And then Simran goes, "You are TJ. What are you talking?" Oh man. So then I just, and then once I was TJ, I kind of simplified things, but I still spoke exactly like my other character. And Jada entered, and she was different as Jolene, so she evades some of that criticism, but still vocally some, like
Yeah.
I still think it would have been probably better to have two other people play those characters.
Yeah. Um, and then probably the spectacle of this scene comes in, I think, another one of these cases where we flex this muscle that is actually very helpful for this like fun comedy, lighthearted, slice of life type of show, but that we usually would not flex. Where me and TJ at this point are having an arm wrestle, and Will comes out with that line of "It is now that the mushrooms Jasper took it started to set in." And yeah, we have like just a little like drug trip scene,
Uh-huh.
which is super. It was super fun because it felt like one of these like we have all these skills and we've been trying so hard to like really be able to like, oh, physical improvisers come out and they represent like the darkness in your heart, and this is that, and this and that, and stuff that to me felt very fun, but was kind of heady and strong and abstract, and bringing that down to the level of like what exists in most random TV shows, like a trippy drug sequence was super fun because we got to do it really well.
And Jada comes out with the ore and the
Yeah.
bones breaking. Like, what wasn't clear whether you actually had broke his bones or whether that was in in your vision. And Will pretending to be your chair and not falling over, and the popsicle sticks are coming. It was awesome, but before that, that video where you're supposed to count the number of basketball passes in the video, and then
Yeah, with
afterwards
the
they're like, "Did you see
gorilla.
the gorilla?"
Yeah.
Like, there's a while when you and I are arm wrestling where Anna is dressed as a velociraptor and Kaylin is doing crazy stuff around her head, and she's going rah rah, and you and I don't notice it. Like, neither one of us notices it even. So the reason Will comes out and is like, it's just then that the shrooms kicked in, is because the shrooms have been kicked in for like 10 to 15 seconds. There was a velociraptor running through the party, and neither one of us noticed it whatsoever.
Well,
Uh,
I failed the gorilla task because I didn't notice it this time either. I
you were
was
just
yeah, just focused on our characters. Wow.
yeah. So that was, we'll get some credit for verbalizing, but I think Anna had the idea beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah, and at this point, I guess we probably cuts to like an Anna monologue.
A
Uh,
brief Anna monologue into intermission.
right. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. And yeah, it's great. It's super entertaining first half. The second half of the show is, I think, a little slower, maybe. But I think it's okay. It was
Hmm.
another one where we went to the second half, and something really bad could have happened. And there's another
Right.
one where intermission Jada was like, "Don't kill any of these characters. No one got murdered. No one, like,
Yeah.
let's keep this joyous and fun." And that's what we did.
Yeah. Yeah. Truly, I feel like the plot is really not such a important part of this show. I mean, at this point, to catch people up, like already what was established in the scene that you and Jada had, like the rest of you are going to get together and look for me and Simran because we weren't home.
Yeah, and that's what we do. We get in a car, we drive there. There's a return of heads or tails about who's going to drive.
Right.
There's some, hedgy conversation in the car. This conversation, I don't know, it's a little less funny than some of the other ones, I think. But there is this beautiful moment where Anna starts talking about putting in her contacts and seeing the sky, and then the music starts playing in this really beautiful way. And I could feel the wind in my hair. Another one of these like very strong because the physical improvisers were making wind.
It was this fun level of consistency, I feel, between how the almost like the or definitely the different shows had different styles, like for what the set design was like and what types of things the physical improvisers were doing. But this one, uh like almost felt like a yes and to like our weird jukebox interaction in the first scene. Like the way that the shower comes together, it's this very fun looking thing of multiple physical improvisers holding things and doing this. And we have the uh, same like ramshackle, whatever you want to call it, like set design for the car.
Uh-huh.
And it's, I don't know, it feels ragtag. It feels homey. It feels very on vibe with the show. And it's enough like, yeah, I don't think that night one had like a crazy amount of spectacle. This felt like it was pushing up the max spectacle that we could have while still being in our world.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And that part of it was again the kind of a little bit of ignoring it of just being like
Yeah.
treating it like we are in the normal world regardless of what crazy stuff is happening, kind of gave license to have slightly crazier stuff being happening by them.
Yeah.
Uh but it just added to the general collective energy. I liked that you solved the mystery of where you guys were, because we could have done the thing where you guys basically were Hal as Ice Queen and just disappeared and left us to solve that mystery for the whole time of like,
Mm,
where are they?
right.
Um, but you were like, no, we're just at the party. You just had a bad trip, and we're just killing time until the five of us reunite.
Yeah. I this like we have this split between the rest of you in the car and then me and Simran uh sitting on the porch or whatever, or I guess we're inside based on what happens later. But um uh yeah, I don't know. I really I felt I was shaky about my dialogue for all of a new play. And overall, like just felt like that was the thing I wanted to get better at. And that was probably the reason that there was so much hesitation and hedging out of me throughout various parts of this. But I felt that I really liked the sort of scene that Simran and I had, or the scenes, we're cutting back and forth, whatever. Um, yeah, just like I said before, we have already strong enough characters that it's fun to just put them next to each other and see what they say.
Mhm. Yeah, I love the why would someone pretend to be mad for attention? Like, there's just this kind of sad sort of truth to some of the things that were being said. And yeah, Simran knocking it out of the park the whole show. You were killing it, and I totally agree. In the car, I was struggling a little more, uh, and it was a lot more about like where do we turn and like things that weren't really the heart of the matter. But you guys were. I feel like it's hard. It's always hard to strike a balance between like getting finding the truth of a scene. And like I could have started some big argument in the car, or like declared love, or dropped a secret, or so. And I don't think sometimes that does help escalate, but sometimes that just feels fake in its own way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, and I don't have regrets from the show of not pursuing of like, was there some tension between like clearly there was some tension between Jada and my character, and it was like maybe we're fighting because it wasn't clear what it was. There was also, so I feel like some romantic tension between you and Simran's characters.
Mhm.
But I kind of liked that it just ended with like you did a little slow dance for a moment, and it was hinted at, but it wasn't like uh
Yeah.
yeah, it just uh yeah, it found something truthful, partly because we were all playing characters just similar ages to us, and because it was reflecting what had happened in the warm up. Um, but it was just like, here's a group of friends who's worried about things changing. A lot of us were graduating. It's just like,
Right. Yeah. I mean, me and you graduating that year, it's like, yeah, it's just like, oh man, like this really is it in a certain way. And so I think all of the things that were happening in the show felt true. I forgot that we really did have a big kind of debrief as characters when you guys found us.
Hmm.
I remembered like the dance party happening at the end, but I don't know. I thought it was more of a sim style bust in. All right, let's start dancing. Um, uh, but no, I really, really love that final scene with all five of us like sitting around in a semicircle, just yeah, debriefing the night, putting some caps on all the stuff that had been brought up, and then the joyous celebration of, oh, it's, we're here at the party, let's throw on the lights, let's dance.
And it was such a uniting thing of like, I was going over to the light board and I was like literally looking at Ness through the window. Ness was on the lights and like helping her out while she was getting the lights to come on disco. And then the musicians were playing See Me Now, which is the song that Sebastian was writing during the show. And the physical improvisers were waving around these lights to make it look like a party, and everyone was dancing. And it was just like every single person who was involved with the show was able to sort of just unite and celebrate. And I think the audience could see that. Like, I think it was just so obvious if you were watching the show that it was the last night of the show, that we'd all
Yeah.
put our hearts into whatever we were doing. And that there was, I mean, there's always part of what's interesting about improv as an art form is that there always is some truth in it. And like, you can see the meta stories going on between improvisers. And like, I think ideally you're not processing things through improv. Like that's not really a
Right.
healthy way to go about it. But it is totally beautiful when you can see that story. And I think that if it was just a play, you might have been able to tell a better story about individual characters. But
Mhm.
as a new play, you could really see like the story of five or 15 friends who were graduating and figuring it out, and we worked really hard on something and we're celebrating and just wanted to have fun and not worry about whether night 3 was exactly perfect or whether someone had forgotten someone's name or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, Jada makes the call. I challenge you to a dance off. And it's one of those nice, I don't know, arcs so that you even feel in like I recently had like a goodbye celebration when I left Michigan. And it was uh there's an arc to those things where there's a really sad moment, but then there's that like, oh, let's not like be super sad. It's our like time
Hmm.
together. Let's go party, let's have fun. So Jada queued that up, and we had that really sweet moment. I liked where you're being Superman because your Halloween costume was Clark Kent, and we were one of the bits throughout it was we're riffing on you for having just like lackluster Halloween costumes, but you take off your Clark Kent and your Superman, and I'm holding you up.
It's really
Yeah,
fun. And Sasha's the cape. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I had totally, again, earlier on in the show, I was expecting, like, that was queued up of, like, this is going to come back. And I was like,
Mhm.
at some point, someone's going to need saving. Like, there's going to be some moment where, like, the car is stuck in, like, something crazy is going to be happening. And, like, we're going to be jumping out, and I'm going to have
Yeah.
to do something really bold and heroic. And then I totally forgot it, like it just left my mind. And then Anna suddenly reminded, and it's like, oh, I would have let that ball drop. But it was really sweet. And we all came forward and bowed. It was so sweet. Um, Watching that just made me feel really warm. And uh, but I think part of art is making things that make people feel good. Um,
Yeah, totally.
and yeah, I think it's become my favorite of the nights. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, you're it's so clearly the most like watchable of the nights, like to just sit down and watch. Yeah, that and night two are my favorite. It's hard to choose because they're great for pretty complementary reasons.
mhm.
But yeah, as a whole, it's none of the nights can be seen on their own. Like each of them is informed by what had already happened, and the whole picture is much more beautiful than the sum of its parts, I feel.
So if you're willing to climb through the 500 minutes of uh, a new play and take, like, again, I think the best way to watch the best way to engage with this as an art piece, I think, is less about the literal art of it, although sometimes that really works, and more about the sort of journey. And as someone who understands improv, understanding the risks that are being taken, the connections that are happening, the inventions that are happening, and also like the science side of it, of just the proof of concept of like
Right.
how powerful all this technology was. And we were engaging with it for the first time as university students who really had no roadmap for how to do what we were trying to do. But I feel like this is the roadmap. And if you watch these shows, it's so clear how you could do so many different shows using this roadmap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because honestly, we talked a lot about how different each one was. They were honestly kind
Mhm.
of similar. That was one big takeaway that from this time. Like we played a lot of young people who were our
Mhm.
age dealing with kind of young people or kid like problem, you know.
Right. Well,
And
it's the thing of like, I mean, it's a play, and it's, yeah, it's a bigger like acting lift than most of our improv, but it's, I don't know, I don't really know much about acting, but I think it reminds me of like some of my favorite shows, like or just, one show that I think is really good is The Sopranos, and The Sopranos is filled with a bunch of like 50-year-old Italian guys who have never acted, but they're playing characters who are close enough to their real life that it feels very real on stage. And so it's one of these things where at that stage in our improv journey, and our just like performer journey, we wanted to be able to put together this really beautiful and cohesive story where the characters felt full. And I think our capacity at that point was to play characters who were not too dissimilar from ourselves. And
mhm.
as we become better actors, we can convey that same level of reality with characters that are further from ourselves. But I think that is a really helpful spectrum to think about in terms of, it's like where you want to put your eggs, and you can explore these really different characters, but you're probably not going to get as much true emotional depth until you do it more and you get more practice with it. So
Mhm.
uh, I felt good about our choices, and it is so right that we oscillated around kind of ourselves somewhat, but I think that it made the new plays feel a very particular way that felt real.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the a lot of I've done this exercise in multiple different, totally different settings recently, of where people just look at me and they say what they think I am based on looking at me. Uh, and honestly, it's been a little brutal. Um, but for a new play, that was just, a strange brother. And it's a funny when we do just sort of walk. Julian walks in. It's like, yeah, that looks like my roommate or my friend, or it fits into those truths. Mm.
So go watch them. Go do a new play. Go do improv. Go have fun. Go to Halloween.
Yeah. Go listen to See Me Now at the end of the sign off.
Yeah, and then listen on Spotify.
It is on Spotify. The something people, Chesterfield people. See Me Now, demos 1 and demo 2, which you never get to hear on the podcast.
Ooh.
But demo 2 is awesome.
Thank you for listening to our nostalgic and reflective journey back through a pivotal time in our lives. And we're reflecting at, I don't know, adult life, I think, continues to be pivotal, like moment after moment. But I don't know. For me, I'm also about to experience a big phase change. And so it's interesting to look back at the last time I was going to experience a phase change, and see what that was like.
Yeah. This has been Muprov.
Musings.
So my sign off is, speaking of phase change, as Julian exits school and enters into the working world, I'm entering back into grad school.
Wait. So which one was this?
I am going to be doing next year an MA in collaborative theater making at Guildhall. I just got
Oh,
in yesterday.
wow. Wow.
That was my top choice. So I'm thinking about that. So
That's
I'm going to get to do a
awesome.
lot of technical theater stuff and new play style, figure it out.
Yeah, did I hear that this is like you're just like it's pretty like hands on the ground, feet on the ground, hands on that you're gonna just be like devising stuff and making stuff?
Yeah, my understanding is that there's very little instruction. They basically you apply with a specialty, and I didn't really. I applied with like improvisation,
Sure.
but whatever. Um, I applied kind of as a flex of like I just want to learn a lot of different technical stuff.
Yeah.
But probably someone has applied being very good at lights, and someone has applied being very good at sound, and someone has applied being good at directing, and someone has applied being. So they kind of build this ensemble of people who have different skills, and then I think that they give you 4 kind of prompts throughout the year. Where like at some point I think they make you make a puppet show, and like at some point they make you make a different kind of show, uh,
Right.
and you as a team build 4 shows, and I think you write some papers and do some other stuff, and you can fabricate the sets if you want to. Sounds like if you did, although there's very little instruction, it sounds like you're allowed to sometimes shadow some undergrad classes or just like go up to undergrad teachers and be like, please teach me how a light board works. But yeah, I'm leaving behind the study of acting, which again, I'm not really sure. I loved it. It was really fun, but I don't know. Even just watching a new play, I'm not sure that my strength is always in the performing side of things. So, and this will be the first time that I've dedicated real time and attention towards honing the non-performance elements of theater.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it seems like you're getting a pretty holistic look at theater making just over the past couple of years. Do you know how much this program has like a cohort aspect to it, where it's like a tight cohort where you're like a big feature of it will be like kind of learning and being around these people for a whole year?
That's the main feature. Again, I don't think there's that much
Yeah.
instruction. I think
How many people are in your cohort? Do you know?
10 to 15. It depends on how many of them kind of
Oh,
accept it.
that's kind of a sweet spot. You really are going to know everybody, and I it's just always so fun to meet a new set of people that you know you're going to have to be around for some
Uh,
time because you get to figure out the shapes of it.
yeah, and it's funny, like with the people who are doing acting, like Everin is very extroverted and it's very easy, I feel like, to me.
Yeah.
But with the theater tech stuff, it's a much more introverted. So it's, I think part of why I got into the program was like, yeah, just I love ensemble building and
Right.
connecting with individual people and uh, trying to make everyone feel loved and supported and just yeah, building up that trust so that everyone is enthusiastic about what we're doing and invested in what we're doing, and like all this other uh, kind of crucial elements. Because I do think that I'm sure some years they just have a cohort that doesn't really connect and it just doesn't work as a program. Uh,
Yeah.
so hopefully we'll leave with a lot of strong bonds and actually put on some shows that we're really proud of.
Yeah. That's super exciting. I am glad to hear, and congratulations on getting in.
Thank you. Yeah. Congratulations on getting employed.
Thank you. Should be great.
Yeah, Julian, have you already talked on the podcast about getting a job?
I don't know. I got a job. It took a long time, but I got a job. Yeah, I'm going to be back in Palo Alto, which will be interesting. I think that especially colors the review of this whole, what were the final days of college like? Because that's going to be my 9 to 5 now.
Yeah, you're back into the belly of the beast. You took 2 years off. Well, how are you changed as a person returning 2 years later? We kind of already hinted at this, but
I don't know. It's an interesting thing where like there's like you can develop as a person, and then you need to like take time where you're not developing to like actually understand how you developed. And I had this conversation with one of my friends the literal night before, like 1 a.m. before my 5 a.m. like departure from Michigan. She came over and we were talking about it. And in a lot of ways, I truly feel like I didn't grow or change that much over these last 2 years, only insofar as I think the past 2 years was me really trying to understand what kind of person I am. So I don't think that any of the core features changed, but I think that the way that I am and the way that I act might be colored by the fact that I think I do have like a clearer understanding of it, and I have my head wrapped around it, and I feel really confident in knowing who I am now.
This one has his head on very straight.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta scoop up the random toys from the bargain bin, and then you gotta spend time looking at them. So I feel like I've just been looking at them for a while, and now I know what I want to play with.
You're gonna get to play.
Gonna get to play hockey. I realized over these past few years, my favorite thing is hockey.
Like you did back then. Can't you see me now? I remember way back when. Oh, and times they are changing. You know, things are rearranging. Can't you see me now? Can't you see me now? Everything is changing. Can't you see me now? Can't you see me now?